Wicked Child came out of a moment in my life in my 20s when I was coming up against the limits of my own knowledge about Israel and Palestine. And Israel was, of course, a place that I, since childhood, uh, had been familiar with and had been taught to value. And I was coming up against like, oh, when I have conversations about Israel, I don't really know enough of what to say, right? I'm sort of regurgitating these things that I was taught as a kid. And so I thought, well, I better do some reading about it. And I did. And I spent about a year doing that. And I had a wonderful teacher at Juilliard named Renee who treated us. And she taught a class called Current Events in the Judicious Mind, which was a strange class for a graduate course in acting. But it was basically a class where we went in and we talked about the news and we talked about what that meant to artists. And I said to her, I'm thinking about writing something about Israel. Would you incorporate some of that into the class? And she did. And we basically spent a semester talking about Israel and Palestine, which is amazing that she gave this to us. And she would show us different documentaries and give us readings and things like this and interviews with various people. And following that period of research, I took the summer and I wrote a play uh, based on sort of what I'd been reading, what I'd been talking about and thinking about, and trying to chew on this thing of what it means to be an American Jew and what my relationship to Israel should be, what it ought to be, and what it is currently. And I also that summer, and this was pretty purposeful, as I took a birthright trip, just mostly as research. I decided I'll go on birthright, and I'm writing this thing about Israel, and I'll take a notebook and I'll take notes on every single thing I see and every single thing I feel and all the things that I'm told. And it was a really fruitful summer. And then at the end of the summer, I got some of my Juilliard classmates together, and we read it out loud, and it has changed a lot since that. That first draft was like 3.5 hours long. My goodness, my poor classmates. But it was a really interesting time for me. I'd never done something like that where I said, I'm going to write something and I'm going to do this like really concerted period of research. And that's sort of how I work now, is I'll take 6 months and read about something and then I'll write the play. Um, the play has changed a lot since then, but it is still at its core about the same thing, which is how do we as American Jews think about Israel? How should we? And what is the generational divide in how we think about Israel?